Welcome back to ICOPEV 2022, International Conference on Production Economics and Project Evaluation. We will start the second roundtable of the conference, presenting our moderator, António Bob Santos, member of the Board of Directors of the Foundation for Science and Technology, Executive Coordinator of the Portuguese STEAM Program, Resilience and Recovery Plan, and member of the Economic and Social Council of the National Innovation Agency. We also present the guests of this illustrious table. Eduardo Pinto, from the National Innovation Agency. Gabriela Fernandes, of the University of Coimbra. Paula Ferreira, of the University of Minho. And Maria do Sameiro Carvalho, of the Argortini Center. We will now assist the roundtable Best Practices in Industry-University Collaboration.
Hi, hello to everyone. First of all, I want to thank to IPCB the invitation to be here in this session. Also thanks to our panel members. This session is oriented to discuss the collaboration between industry and universities, or higher education institutions, if we want. This is one of the hot topics of innovation policy. As you know, Portugal is a moderate innovative country in the context of the European Union, and one of the bottlenecks of our position in innovation rankings is the lack of ties and collaborations between these two worlds, industry and science. So we have here with us some experts that have a lot of work in this area. Our intention is to discuss some points. One is to analyze what are the main challenges and also the main constraints around this collaboration. The other topic is how to respond to these bottlenecks in terms of public policy, but also from the side of companies. In this case, we have with us experts that work in the Bosch projects from Universidade Minho, but also from the perspective of universities and higher education institutions. And the other topic, if we have time, is to see how can we look to the next round of European funds that we are going to have in the next 7 years, or if we want the amount of funding that we are going to have from public side, European and national, to respond to and to boost the collaboration between industry and science. Maybe I'll start with Eduardo Pinto. Eduardo Pinto is not here, he's in the laptop. He sent to us a tape. Maybe I start with him. He's from National Innovation Agency, and it's interesting to have in the first place the perspective of the public side of the public policies. So.
Afternoon, colleagues, fellow researchers, colleagues from this roundtable, António, Gabriela, Paula, and Maria do Sameiro. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to present my sincere apologies for not being in person with you. It is impossible for me because currently I am at the ANI collaborators meeting, ANIMET. I would really like to be there with you and essentially discuss the problems related to university industry collaboration. I will speak to you as someone with a background and with nationwide responsibilities in the field. Regarding the question, what are the main challenge constraints? Firstly, I would like to approach this question from the challenge side. There is a lot of published literature on subject. Probably Professor Gabriela will deepen the subject. I just highlight some of the challenges that I felt in my profession life. Generally, on the industry side, there is a lack of qualified human resources capable of indigenous knowledge developed in the partnership. And when industry has these resources or this exists, there is a lack of allocation to the project, or poor allocation to the project. Qualified human resource means trained people who understand science, technology, and innovation and its roadmaps. So the second that I will emphasize is the failure to use collaborative project management approaches. Typically, we do not see project management practice applied. When they exist, they use a top-down hierarchical power approach. So it means that a traditional hierarchical approach. Another topic that I felt challenge is the work overload of researchers. The principal researchers typically, they have responsibility in university, in their institutions, and they accumulate lots of kinds of tasks associated with their professional life and in the project associated with the development of the project, administrative, scientific, legal, etc. So this leads to a work overload. The last challenge that we emphasize is the lack of long-term partnership that enhance trust and predictably in the common development of a product and knowledge development roadmap. So it's more short periods of project, not long-term roadmap, that each team focus on the challenge of the company. So we see that long-term partnerships that has multiple projects or multiple challenge, they are more successful than the ones that are more punctual. So that's my first question.
And challenges for this collaboration.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you for the organization, for being here today. It's a very pleasure for me to be here and sharing with you some of our thoughts. Thank you, and formulation of welcome to all the members of this panel. About the challenges. So I will highlight it 5. One of them, and the perspective that I will give you is the perspective of management. So the first challenge is about managing the research work. So there is a big uncertainty about what are the expectations, what are the results of these projects, what are the research methods, what are the process that we will follow to get these results that is not well defined. The second challenge is about we need a kind of management and governance approach that balance creativity, freedom to do things, but also control. It's impossible if we want to go for long-term partnerships, as Eduardo was talking now, if we don't have a kind of control what we are doing. But we need to have if you are talking about R&D, if you are talking about innovation, we need freedom. We need freedom, give freedom to people. The third one, and very important, is that we are dealing with collaborative projects, and collaborative projects with organizations with completely different cultures. And as they have different cultures, they have multiple and sometimes contradictory expectations. So stakeholders from university and stakeholders from university, they expect different things. So managing these different expectations and contradictory is very difficult. The third one is about the person that is managing the project, or the group of people that are managing these projects, that most of the times, if we look for the side of the university, are researchers, professors that have many functions. They do many things, so they are not project managers, professionals. So we need a kind of professionalization of project management. The last challenge that I want to highlight is that if we want to improve these collaborations, if we want to be long-term partnerships between university and industry, we need, for improving, we need to measure. Without measuring, it's not possible to improve. So it's very challenging, these kind of collaborations, to measure the performance of these projects. I don't mean to measure the success at the end of the project. I mean measuring the performance of the success during the life cycle, in order for us to have time to act. Okay? So these are the 5 main challenges that, for my experience, I want to highlight. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Paulo Ferreira from Universidade do Minho.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
A lot of experience also in doctoral programs and in collaborate with companies. So in your experience, what kind of bottlenecks and challenges do we expect in this area?
Okay, thank you. Firstly, of course, I would like to thank the invitation to be here. And my experience in here would be from the projects, but also has from the doctoral program of Industrial Engineering and Systems that you have at the university, where you have several students working also with companies. So that's my vision over here, I'll try to bring. And I would say I agree completely with what Gabriela has said. And I also think that this aspect that you mentioned about the expectations, the different expectations that companies and universities or research institutions, especially public research institutions, have, is a major challenge. And research and development is still perceived by many companies as very costly, very risky, and maybe at the end of the day will not get the results that they would like to have. And this happens a lot also with PhD researchers, because PhD is a theoretical work where in our PhD we try to do it essentially applied research, but it is research. And if it is possible to be applied in companies, that is excellent, that's what we try to do. But in fact, we may have different expectations, we may have different time frames, because the companies want to get the products to the market as quick as possible, and sometimes it's not possible, because we need time to do the research, to find the right researcher to do the job, and this takes a lot of time. I would say this is a major challenge that you have, is the different expectations, either in the content of the research, but also on the time frame of the research. That is our feeling. And also in the companies, some companies has a lot of difficulties on accepting a PhD researcher. They think, as I said, it's too theoretical, it's not going to be applied, they will not have the results that they expect, which of course is not true. It depends on the company, but the PhD project can be adapted to the interest of the companies and to the interest of the research. That is our main goal in our research, in our projects, in our PhD program.
Okay, but just to complement your response, in your PhD program, you see any difference between big companies and SMEs to receive PhD students in terms of conditions, for example?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. If you have a company which may not even be classified as big companies, maybe an SME, but already a very organized one, it's much easier for them to host a PhD because they have the right person to support this PhD researcher there, to give him the data, to supply him all the information. And of course, to do a PhD, we need information, we need to get data, and sometimes data are very sensitive in companies. But I think that of a big company or a very well-organized SME, it's much easier to receive one. But just, I don't know if I'm taking too much time, but even small companies, we can make an effort to adapt to them. We have some examples, maybe not as much as in PhD, but in Master of Sciences, that most of our Master of Science students go and work in companies. And some of them give them solutions that we're not expecting. We have an example, we had it in the morning with a Master of Science that is doing, it's not really big research, but is doing a sustainability framework to support a very small company. And he went there and he proposed them this and said, well, maybe we could do a kind of a sustainability report based on a new methodology. It's a very small company, and said, yeah, this is a very good idea. We are going to do it. Because we proposed them and they said, we will support you on that, because they didn't have their own resources to do it. So actually, we can help companies either in PhD or Master of Science. Our students, our researchers can support them, and we can work together. So it's just a matter of making sure that you have common expectations and common timeframes, I would say.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move to this side. Professor Maria Carvalho from Centro Algoritmo, Research Center from University of Minho. Tell us about your experience in collaborating with companies in co-create something using the knowledge that you produce to solve problems of companies.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. I would like to thank you for having me here, and I think it will be an opportunity to share some of our experience at Algorithm Research Center. The Algorithm Research Center is one of the largest research unit at the University of Minho, and we have a long tradition in developing projects with the industry. In the region, we have a lot of industry, textile industry, automotive industry, and we have a long tradition in having projects with them. I would say that some of those projects are not long-term projects, so somehow we not create a lot of value, because at the end of a few months we end up these projects and they are not very, they have no so much impact. We have now recently a good experience with Bosch. That was a long-term partnership, and I think that make a lot of difference, because we have time to develop new ideas, and at the end the paradigm changed completely for the company that stopped just producing something but creating new products. So we have really a big impact on that long-term partnership. In terms of the main problems, I think my colleagues already referred them, but I think one of the main problems is the language. Language is different. Objectives and expectations are different. And I think it's really important to engage top management and both from university and companies, to commit people to define clearly what are the main objectives, and to define a project, and to have all those support that needs to get a successful project, as Gabriela referred. So that is really also, very important to ensure that you can overcome some of these sometimes are cultural problems, language problems, expectations, and And that, I would say, that is one of the most important problems that we face. There are other problems related with bureaucracy to set a project, so it takes a long time. And what happens is then it's difficult to get the right researchers to involve in projects. It's so much time that any of these kind of project takes that we lose opportunities from that. So I would say that that is also one of the problems associated with this attempt to set partnerships with companies. Of course, maturity of the companies is also, it matters as well. Some companies, they don't have maturity to face the challenges and to adapt and to be flexible. The time for researchers is not the same of the time for companies. So to balance these different views is really a big challenge, I would say.
In your work, do you have different strategies to approach companies? So you go to companies to sell your portfolio of solutions, or you expect that companies, yes?
At the University of Minho, we have two interface companies, which is CCG and Tec Minho. And they do a lot of that work. They bring us companies, projects, and so it's quite good to have all this dynamic already implemented. But sometimes it's like that. The companies, they come along. The algorithm center is organized in different labs with different perspectives and different areas. And I think is one of the advantages of the center is a multidisciplinary center. Because we have we have 4 different departments engaged in the research unit. So we can have multidisciplinary approach because we have people from informatics, technology, electronics, industrial management. So we can combine all these competencies to approach companies and to approach the problems. I think that is one of the main advantages of but we don't have that initiative to go there and ask them if they have problems. That is not a common approach. The most common approach is companies, they come along and ask for help, mainly through Tec Minho and CCG.
Yeah, thank you. And now, João Gonçalves, former student of the PhD program from the University of Minho, that worked also in his PhD work at Bosch. So tell us what was your experience at Bosch, and it was difficult to learn the language of a company like Bosch.
Yeah, so I would like to thank you for the invitation. As you said, I did my PhD at Bosch. I finished in April of 2021, and what I'm going to say is more related to my experience in my PhD at Bosch and not in the other industries. But anyway, I believe that what I'm going to say is more or less the same in other companies. So the first thing that I would like to highlight, and I truly believe that it's a huge problem, is in terms of mindset. So people and teams at companies are more used to believe that a PhD, it's the same thing as do engineering. And do engineering or making science are two different worlds and two different things. And people from a specific company and Bosch in particular, I think they expect that a PhD student will make like a dashboard or a specific system to mitigate a problem that exists in a company. And they are not prepared for a specific process, and a classical one that is, so we analyze the problem, we do the research in terms of the state of the art of the problem. And I remember that the first time that I told at Bosch that I need to do some research in terms of what kind of models exist currently to attack this specific problem that I am dealing with. They told me, why do you need to spend like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months just reading and not making like a presentation, a fancy one with a nice product to sell? So I truly believe that making science or engineering are two different worlds, and industries are not so prepared to receive the PhD students in this world. The second thing, and it's related to what my colleagues have said, is related to the maturity in terms of analytics. The access of information that a PhD student needs to have when he enters in any kind of company, it's huge. So we need to have access to a large set of databases, information, and so on. And when they write a call to receive a PhD student, they don't think about what kind of data these students will need, and if it is possible for that student to have access to that data to do this kind of research. So it's the second thing that I like to highlight. So the readiness level, in short, the readiness level of the vast majority of companies to receive PhD students in terms of mindset is still too weak, I believe. We can change.
Oh, okay, that's right. You have your tutor, your orientation in the University of Minho, and in Bosch. Did you have someone to guide you to follow up your work, to contact also with your tutor in the university?
That it's another interesting question. So my supervisor is here from the University of Minho.
Question.
Yeah. So in terms of guidance on the side of the university, I had no problems to have. But in the side of the company, yeah, because, and this leads to the second question, but I will not enter too deep on that. But that is another problem that companies should put, like the supervisor of a PhD student should have also a PhD to understand what kind of barriers, what kind of difficulties this guy has, and I truly believe that putting like a quite experienced person in terms of business and process to mentoring and guiding this student is not enough. So I struggled a lot during large periods of time, but with the guidance of in the side of the university, I discovered my way in the light, and then I finished successfully. Yeah.
So there's also the necessity to have someone that speaks the two languages. As you know, we don't have a lot of PhDs in companies. We have less than 10% of our PhDs are in companies, and most part of them are in big companies. So SMEs or micro companies, we have 90% of micro companies in Portugal, they don't have PhDs. So that is a good challenge to public policy and to understand how can we design policies to give response to that problem. So I'm going to put the video of Eduardo Pinto. I think he has something to say to us about that, about the response of public policies.
Has been and is doing to respond to this challenge of constraints. We try or help partners to collaborate more. First of all, we intend, Tani, with the help of FCT, to propose the instrument BDA, Bolsas de Doutoramento em Empresas, Scholarship for Doctoral Studies in Companies, remains active in PT 2030. The study that analyzed the impact of Portuguese incentives developed by Professor Fernando Chan says that this instrument has superior impact than the generated by direct support to hiring of PhDs. So we intend to, in our proposal to the authorities, that this instrument, the BDAs, remains active. In terms of collaborative project management, with the help of University of Coimbra, leading Professor Gabriela and their colleague Luís Ferreira, and with Instituto Politécnico Bragança, José Santos, and Professor Pedro Ribeiro from University of Minho, we launched a nationwide survey to the innovation community, asking them how they use and what kind of practices they use of project management in their project, in their collaborative projects. We are currently analyzing the data. Our intention is to develop a diagnostic and implementation plan for nationwide for these good practices to be applied in national innovation system. So till the end of the year, first quarter, we are prepared to launch this survey, or results of this survey, and the plan to implement good practices. With this plan, it's our intention to go to the PT 2030 authorities in order to finance a collective action nationwide for training all actors in innovation systems. This means that for us, ANI, it is of utmost importance that we have trained people that can discuss and monitor the project with us, makes our job easier for one side. For the other side, it means that if you have a good collaborative project management, you have effective effective outputs and a relationship. So it is more easy to lead the process. And finally, it's our intention, it is in our proposal to make the PMO figure eligible and mandatory in all projects we support. Our intention that this PMO will be our point of contact regarding the monitoring of the project. So for all non-scientific matters, means that the principal investigators remains the same, but for administrative issues, we will ask this PMO to be our point. So this is simple and actions that we can get better on the collaborative side, making this more easy. So this impact that we expect is not only for us, but for the partners. And one of them is for researchers, the principal researchers. So try this workload be less, and then we get more science focus and science, and then they get more productivity from them.
That's good insights for our discussion here. Professor Gabriel Fernandes, we know that University of Coimbra has a lot of experience in collaborating with companies. You have a lot of incubators, Biocant, and a lot of spin-offs from University of Coimbra. But in your opinion, how can public policies, entities like ANI or FCT or other IAPME, for example, can help universities or higher education institutions to promote more the collaborations in R&D and also in innovation? How can, for example, support universities to introduce or to have more PhDs in non-academic environment, for example? What do you need what do you think that is the lack in public policies that we don't have and we should have to support more this collaboration?
I think first funding, yeah, that is the main thing. So we need more funds. That is one of our main problems. The things that we need when you think in innovation, when you think in R&D, we need to find the resources. So that is our one of the main issues that we have as researchers, as PhDs, is that we need to find funds. So I think that we could find more funds to do the research. So that is one of the main things that we can do. Other thing is, and I think that, as I'm picking a little bit what Eduardo has said, is about the professionalization. The thing, and what also Professor Sameiro says, that sometimes they have more with companies short projects, and sometimes these projects that don't have continuity. So these, what I say usually is that collaborating with the university industry collaborations usually is easy to do it one time. So for example, University of Coimbra with PCA, for example. So to doing the first collaboration, I will say that the only big challenge that we have is to find funding, okay? So if we overpass this challenge, the other problem is to continue this collaboration, because we need, to perform well in the first collaboration in order to have a second collaboration, as University of Minho and Bosch has. So they are already in the fourth phase of investment since 2013. So the thing is that we need to improve the way we perform these collaborations. And in the case of FCT or ANI, what could do is ask more professionalization for managing these projects. We need to professionalize the way we manage projects. So I think that one of the ideas is to ask some things that are very basic that we need to perform, as for example, okay, risk management, something like all these kind of projects. We are talking about innovation. We need to have risk. If you have a project that is an innovation project that doesn't have risk, so that is not a project, or at least an innovation project. So we need to, not ask only the risks when we've made the funding proposal, but when we are reporting the status of our projects, the ANI or FCT needs to ask, what are the risks? What are effectively now the evaluation of your risks of your project, because they change over time. And what are you doing for managing these risks? Like if we are, obligated, if it's a requirement for these organizations, for these public organizations, more mechanisms for we perform well, we will perform well. For example, one of the things, and this is why this is so important, because one of the main things on university-industry collaborations is trust. And for building trust, we don't say, okay, I will collaborate with you, so I trust with you. I trust with you. So this is not happen like this. So we need to work, keep working, keep doing things for this trust coming up. And if we trust with our partners, so things will be getting better. So I think that FCT, if they require this, if you require more mechanisms of management, and if you actually try to imagine building the capacity, these competences, giving instruments, as Annie is trying to do, is basically we made a survey, and we finished in August, so we collect the data, and now we are preparing a plan for capacitate industries and universities on how to manage these projects. So we need to provide training, because we actually, even in our universities, we don't teach so much project management. And if we are dealing with project innovation, if we are dealing with PhDs, we need to do management, project management. We need to do these kind of things, but we don't teach this. So we need things that we can do is kind of trying to build programs for capacitating universities, people from industry, people from the scientific technology side, yeah, for laboratories like Algorithmi, for example, other research centers and so on. So I think that's that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, trust is a very important thing in the innovation area, of course. My question is, how can we manage trust in a digital world? So we have more and more online platforms, we have open innovation platforms that brings together industry with universities. You make deals in business with people that are in other country or other part of the world. How can you in universities manage these links, manage trust in using these digital platforms, where in some cases trust is very important, as I said, to make business in the innovation area.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, of course, this is a big problem. We also have it at university, which is dealing with confidentiality of the information that the companies provide to us. There are ways of doing it. The simplest one is just to put it like, for example, the cases of PhD theses that are not in the repository, are not available to everyone. That is something that we don't like, because we prefer to have an open access to all our outputs, but it's possible to be managed. And it's possible because we can see it, for example, in the projects, even European projects, the Horizon Europe, for example, before H 2020, where it's possible to have a mix of public outputs, and part of the outputs can be somehow confidential. There is this possibility of not showing out everything. Try to have some publications, for example, which are open access, which shows the models, which shows the main outputs, but do not show the data. There is also the possibility sometimes to use data that is already open access, and most of the time people that, and I'm sorry, I'm talking about, for example, the case of PhD, because that's my experience with our PhD program, is that sometimes the students spend a lot of time looking for information, looking for data that they try to collect, and in some cases it's even open access somewhere. If you look for it, we don't even know that there are a lot of repositories from past European projects, recent projects, that are compulsory to publish some of the information, and students don't know it. Even companies don't know it. But it's possible to deal with this, try to use as much as possible open data, and of course protect the information that is confidential for the companies. And we are very careful on that part. We do not show information that is commercially sensitive, or it's not possible to be shown. But it's possible, for example, when we do an evaluation of a project, we can have kind of a software where you have the full version that was developed by a company with all the database behind it, and you have a kind of a demo, a short version that is possible to be used, for example, at universities to show to the researchers. So with some effort, we may combine both interests, because it's important to underline that at universities, it's important to have open access to the information as much as possible. So we need to find a way. Again, it's the matter of the language, the matter of the expectations. We must find some common ground over here. And probably one of possibilities is, as I said, to have two versions of the information, the public one and the private one, which is for the companies. That's a very common thing to be done.
Sure. That leads me to another question, that is the question of the appropriability of the results of the research. In your opinion, how can, based on your experience, how do you deal with the questions of protecting or not protecting knowledge, or protecting until one phase, or strategies of knowledge valorization, for example, licensing of intellectual property? What's your strategy, or your different strategies in your center?
Mm-hmm. I think that is a big issue when we talk about working with companies. I think universities want to share knowledge, and companies, they are afraid of sharing information because it is critical for them, and still there is that idea that if I share it, I will lose some competitivity. So that is a main problem. But I think from the experience I have in my project, and one can talk a bit about that because he struggled a bit with that. I think there is always a way of doing some prototypes or some kind of, as Paula refers, using some data just to show the models and the ideas, avoiding using real data, which is most of the times a problem for the companies. And I think that is a big issue, but I think it's also a mindset problem. That companies still think that they need to hide their core ideas. And that, I think, going back to the first question, I think we missed that one, but I think is a critical point, which is how to solve these conflict objectives in terms of the data and how to use it and how to share it. I think there is no solution. We don't have, as a research center, one solution for all. But I think we all, after some years, we know how to do it. Ways of using some kind of examples to show the main results without showing real data. Although I think, for instance, with Bosch, we didn't have that much problem. Much of the time, they don't ask us to hide. Okay, if you talk about euros, okay, that is a problem. But you can talk about all other indicators without no problems. I think that is the main point.
Yes, well. Of course, that's a problem. I don't know how can in public policies solve and give response to that kind of issues, because we are in a world of open innovation. The protection in open innovation is a key issue, because you have to protect, but you don't have to protect to hide your research. You have to protect to create value, to
yes.
go to the market and license it or sell it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the logic of open innovation, and in our country, we don't have enough knowledge in our companies to design strategies to create value in the knowledge that they have.
Yeah. But so you have the same type of problems with companies collaborating in a integrated supply chain, for instance. If they want to collaborate, they have to share information, and that is some kind of a jump that companies must do to evolve and to have better performance. And I think in Portugal we still have a lot of problems. Companies struggle to share data with companies among suppliers and customers or whatever. So that's just not with universities, it's even with the rest of the world.
It's cultural, yes. Thank you. João, you studied in University of Minho, possibly with a lot of foreign students from other countries, I don't know. Spain, for example, Galicia, I don't know. But in your opinion, First of all, do you think that Portugal is a good country to work in your area? So, do we pay you good money to work here? And the other question is, how can we attract more in your area? How can we attract high qualified young researchers from other countries to work in Portugal or in Braga or Guimarães?
Okay, that is the big question. So, in terms of wage to work in Portugal and compete with other countries to work with PhDs, I will not enter too deep in this topic because it's an off topic. It's a fact that we cannot, here in Portugal, a PhD in a company has more or less the same wage that any other regular employee without a PhD. So I felt that for having a PhD, I was more or less the same than other employees. So I believe that in Portugal there is a long way to work on this problem and to give the benefit of doubt that a person with a PhD can bring lots of benefits to our company and give to that specific person the time to think instead of giving to him a project to do just engineering. And this is a great topic. So, but other thing that is very important to highlight here is that the wage is not the only factor that should weigh here. So we need to embrace the reality that okay, we have a wage that is lower than other countries, but in terms of working environment is also a topic that should matter when deciding to work remotely for other company or for an internal one. So the working environment, from my perspective, it's more than a half of the weight of a decision when we talk about working in advanced topics. So I have a lot of friends that in a PhD also that work from other institutions abroad, and the salaries were much more than my salary at that time. But the working environments were were worse than mine. And that is a snowball effect. So I can have a lot of money, but I do not have the working environment, the perfectly one to develop my research. And in contrast, I can have less money, but I'm more happy to do research in an environment that people understand my issues. And working in my country is very different to work for another countries. Our language, it's different. I understand the culture and so on. So it's like a trade-off between salary and working environment. And I truly believe that it's important one to wait when we decide to work here or remotely, for instance, in a PhD.
Your response, okay. Your response matches with what we know from the recent studies. That Portugal is one of the best countries for digital nomads, for example. Not because of the salary. Most part of them, they came with the salaries that they had in their countries, of course, but because of the framework conditions, of the institutional condition that we have in Portugal. Institutions conditions are very important in an innovation context. So security, the norms are very important. I think that we have, in that aspect, competitive advantages if you look to other European countries, for example. So that is a very good. The salary is not all is important, but there are other things, security, that we also have to value in our careers.
Sure.
The last topic is related to funding. It's one of the main issues, not only in innovation, but in all areas. When we talk about universities, collaboration, companies. So we are going to have the last video from Eduardo that I think is going to tell us good news about fundings for the next years in Portugal. I hope so.
Few years to accelerate the connection between companies and the institute. First of all, how do we make this partnership more effective? First of all, I'm very concerned on the proposal and dimensions of these PRR programs. And personally, I don't see a lot of program manager skills or people with these skills that can lead these projects. And not only in technical issues, but in relationships between peer companies, peer interface institutions and universities. So I'm a little bit concerned. I hope the study and the training that I intend to launch next year will produce something useful for them, but the timing is running and I'm not sure. So the challenge that I propose to the community is to try to launch some programs, then to train people. Professor Gabriela could launch easily, or someone that is listening to us can launch easily from university short courses to train people for this task. I'm a little bit worried about that. So what we'll do, we exactly in PTV 30, we are in interface program. I'm proposing and making a hobby in order for these PMOs be an active person inside organizations and be electable to the project. I know that this can be a bit tricky, because if you have overheads, you should have that, but I'm trying to that this kind of profile could be eligible in PTV 30 and interface. Another topic that I'm forcing is that these subjects, the knowledge around collaborative projects, the community around the development knowledge on collaborative projects could meet at least once a year or 2 in 2 years to discuss practices and exchange experiences. I know that the community is it's a few people, but it is important, and the part of the Portuguese culture here is probably important. Okay, you can go to international conferences and discuss this, or even in not in conference, but organizations, Europe or worldwide, and discuss this. But the feeling that I got is that okay, in terms of practices, there is international wide applied, but there is these kind of questions regarding the culture. So it is important that Portuguese community meet and discuss topics and could have more and more ideas on how to lead. Not even in the partnership of the university industry side, but even for ANI, FCT, IAPME side, because we are not here to control projects. We are here to support the partners and to get results, to get output, and then impact. The important here is to have impacts, but sometimes we forgot that and we go deeper in the project and have a role that is not suitable. So this community, this triple helix community, should meet and discuss and see the best practices that we can deeper the impact. So any person, the innovation agent should be a true innovation officer, and not an administrative controller. That's our vision, and we are working for it, trying to make proposals to the government and to the program authorities in order to accomplish that. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. The last question that I have, as we are short in time, is related to funding. We are going to have Portugal 2030. We already have the Recovery and Resilience Plan. We also have the Rise in Europe. So we are going to have around 60 billion euros to spend the next 10 years, and most part of this money, or a big part, is to innovation, digital transition, climate transition, and also R&D. So in your perspective, and this question is for all of you, in your institutions, do you have the right skills and people to manage projects, to use this money that is available? And what kind of financial instruments we don't have and we should design to respond to this problem of collaboration between industry and university?
Thank you for the interesting question. I will say that, and being briefly, I think that we need really to change our management paradigm. Our management paradigm is very focused on the output. Yeah. So even FCT and IAPME and every agencies, they ask for the outputs, for the deliveries. And what do you think we need for taking, how do you say, all this money available and make this impactful? We need to change a way how we manage. We need to change, our orientation should not be the output, our orientation since the beginning should be the benefits. So we need to manage the benefits since the beginning. So when we are designing a project, we should think, what are the benefits of these projects for the different stakeholders? And we will be managing these benefits along the life cycle of the project. So I think that we need to, and if you ask me if my University of Coimbra, or most of our universities in Portugal have the skills for doing this properly, I will say that we are in the way, we are in the progress, so we need to, how do you say, we need to be pushed for managing the way we are managing the projects, and maybe is related to the other question, the previous question that you made me, is that maybe if FCT, ANI, and some could ask more focus on the benefits, we will be more, how do you say, managing these projects, looking for the benefits and not just for the output. So we need to be focused on both on exploration, but also on the exploitation of the projects. And we need to think on the exploitation, not at the end of the project, but since the beginning. That is the thing. So I think that for us to take all opportunities of all this money, that actually we don't have the resources to make use of all this money. That is another issue that we have in Portugal. But anyway, I think that if we change this paradigm, at least what we do, we will do well. Okay?
Thank you. So if you ask, we have the right conditions to manage it, I would say from the administrative point of view, of course we have it. We have a lot of departments that support us in this process. What we need, I would say, if I would look at it, is firstly this connection with the companies that, as we said, it's ongoing. It's much better than it was a couple of years ago, but it still needs to be better to make sure that actually we'll find a way to collaborate between each other, between universities and companies. That's a major issue. But going with what Gabriela said, the matter of impacts is very relevant. I think sometimes we focus too much, and this is my personal vision, a bit to focus a lot on the outputs, measuring, I don't know, like the number of patents, the number of PhDs, and we have to look at it also from a more social impact, the societal impact of our research that needs to go much beyond these traditional KPIs that we tend to use. We need to look at other factors. We need to look at, for example, the digitalization, which is a fantastic thing. It's going to create a lot of jobs, but we need to ask ourselves, and how about the low-skilled workers? What are we going to do with them? What would be the social impact of all this research? That's an example. For example, the regional perspective of the research. To what point does our research is actually contributing to reduce the regional differences that we have in our country, for example? These are major issues that need to be assessed and must be considered during the project application. We must show that actually our research is contributing to a better society at the end of the day, in our country and everywhere. Of course, we are talking about climate change. It's a major issue at this moment. The energy aspects, the water aspects, that is now a big problem, but it is a big problem from the social point of view. Companies also, we know that a lot of companies, they also worry about it. They have this sustainability perspective, this working conditions perspective, but the companies, at the end of the day, they have to have a profit. That's their major goal. And universities can actually make a big contribution if we work with the companies, because I do believe that we can bring more this human factor to the research to make sure that is not forgotten. And this should also, or at least it would be important to be part of these calls for projects to make sure that actually at the end you have KPIs that go beyond these very traditional ones, like number of jobs, number of patents. We need to find a way of measuring things that are extremely difficult to be measured.
Thank you.
I think the most important ideas my colleague has already emphasized. Just add two new points. The first one, I think we must simplify all this process to make it more agile, because everything is difficult. To have a new researcher or whatever to call for new researchers, new human resources is very complicated. It all takes much time from everyone. So I think it's mandatory to reduce bureaucracy associated with that. I think one of the points is that, and the other one is that all the best practices must be disseminated, so we can take advantage of all these best practices. I think we have already. Gabriela, I'm sure, has a lot of practice, and they have already collected a lot of knowledge about that. So I think all this must be disseminated to promote better practices. That's my
Okay, thank you. Just to finish, João, a very specific question. In your journey in university and afterwards at WASH, you feel that you had a lot of incentives or there's a lot of instruments or incentives to support students to create their own business, their own company, to create spin-offs, for example?
Okay, I think that I do not have so much information to respond accurately to that question. But as long as, from my case, I didn't have any kind of information available or easily available to pursue that topic, and I believe that in software engineer mostly people have great ideas, but as my colleagues said, it's very difficult to put a good idea in practice. So the bureaucracy behind it's huge. And this makes very, very difficult the process. But regarding to the question in terms of the allocation of this huge amount of money, I truly believe that the key in terms of companies is in digitalization. Truly believe that. And from my perspective at Bosch, for instance, Bosch is one of the biggest organizations in the world. If we think about it, when we want to digitalize a big company, the return of investment in a short period of time is zero. The investment, we have millions and millions of investment to digitalize difficult processes, and the companies and the agency that give that fund, if they see that a specific project will have a return of investment in a short period of time that will be nearby zero, they don't approve that project, and that it's wrong. Because the number one thing to grow in the future is to have like a better basis to work upon. And so we should invest in projects to build the base of the house for later we can have real returns of investment. For instance, if I was like an evaluator of this kind of process, despite of I was analyzing, for instance, a big company, I will assess if that company is prepared to receive the challenge of a specific project. If they have the right people, the right process to do that. And if don't, that project should not be approved, regardless of being like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Bosch, and so on. If they don't have the right resources to do that, we should not put money on that. And I believe that are the key points to take.
Okay, thank you very much. We are on time, so I think we have only time for one question if you have. I don't know if we have some question. 1, 2, 3, no? Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you to our panel members, and I hope you enjoyed. So, and from our side, just to finish, from my side, from the side of Foundation of Science and Technology, this is a the collaboration between industry and university is a topic that we are very concerned. We are working with other entities like ANI and IAPME. But one thing that we want to promote more is the possibility of having more PhDs students in non-academic environments. So we have a commitment with the European Commission in the next 10 years to increase a lot the number of PhD students in companies or other entities, public entities, museums, for example, in cultural areas. So this is a commitment that we have, and we want to improve in the next years. So thank you very much.
Thank you all for your presence and insights. We invite all the participants of this conference to enjoy a coffee break that will be served outside. We return at 4:20. Thank you.
Oh, não. Oh, não. Olha, desculpe.
Welcome back. To end the first day of ICOPEV, International Conference on Production Economics and Project Evaluation, we call Helena Gouveia from the ESQ, Instituto de Soldadura e Qualidade, to present us the last plenary session of today, Collaborative Projects, Core Technologies for Cyber Physical Manufacturing Systems.
Hello to everybody. In first place, thank you to the organization for the invitation. It is a pleasure to be here to share some of the experiences of ISQ as a technological interface in collaborative projects. So I bring here some examples, but I will start my presentation by showing you a short overview of ISQ, followed by also an overview of LI, which is our lab of special tests at Castelo Branco, that some of us will have the opportunity to visit after the conference. And finally, I will give with some more detail, I will present with some more detail a collaborative project between industry and academia that is the core technologies for cyber-physical production systems. So, beginning with an overview of ISQ, for those that don't know yet, ISQ is one of the biggest infrastructures, technological infrastructure in Portugal, with already more than 50 years of existence. So it has some numbers, some of the most important numbers up there, 16 labs, accredited labs, and with some delegations. Our headquarters are at Lisbon, but we have delegations spread over Portugal in 7 contact points. We have 7 other contact points, and we have a lot of specialized services, as I will show you later. And we have about 56 affiliate companies. As you see, we are all over the world with smaller or more significant representations. And I would say that Spain, Brazil and Angola are the most representative in this framework. Here you see a picture of our campus at Oeiras near Lisbon, and we have some values. Our values, main values, are competence and rigor, integrity, independence, and innovation. Our mission is for providing services and innovation to the industry and services in Portugal and worldwide. And we want to be a technological. We are mainly a technological institute, and whose aim is is spreading and improving our international scope of services. Here, it's a vision of our affiliates, not only internal but also external, international. And here we can see that our main areas of expertise are in different sectors. As we are a technological institute, our technologies are transversal. So we are able to provide services and knowledge to to many sectors that goes from the textiles, from the agriculture, to the metalworking, to the aeronautics, and so on. So we have a large scope of sectors, industrial sectors of interest. More than apart from this part of providing services and consultancy and transfer of technology to these sectors, we have other activities that are more related with training. We have an academia, and also with R&D and innovation. We have a department of R&D and innovation at ISQ, and our research and innovation is more focused not only in improving internally its competencies and knowledge, but also to provide to develop new services and new products for industry or services directly. Here are some of our area of services that comprise inspections, engineering and testing, as well as R&D training and certification. You can see here some of our international clients that are one of the quite well known in the different sectors that I have just pointed out. And some examples of consortium partnerships and organizations with which ISQ is normally dealing with. ISQ is also an accredited, certified and recognized organization by all these organizations, where we can see IPQ and APSER and others that are also relevant for its activity. Now, if we focus on its research part, we have I would say, a very big experience in research projects, and through all these years, where we have participated in more than 500 projects, with about more than 1,200 national and international partners, and involving partners coming from about 30 countries, different countries. I would give you some examples of the projects where ISQ is participating. ITER, the International Thermonuclear Experiment Reactor, is one of those examples, where the main focus of ISQ is in the quality assurance and quality control. CERN, the particle accelerating in France, where in this case inspection and testing activities are the most important activities led by ISQ, but for example, CERN has involved also some research projects dealing with the joining of materials, special metals, alloys, and so on. And ISQ, sometimes alone, sometimes joining with other academia, other universities in Portugal, has developed some solutions for the client, that is CERN. In this case, it is CERN. Here it's another example. Here it's the telescope in Chile, the European Space Center at Cujo, where we have also activity. This is not important one, and here it comes Infante, that is a quite big project, a mobilizing project, a Portuguese mobilizing project involving many industrial companies and research institutes and universities, which have dealt with the developing and the demonstration of microsatellites, the constellations of microsatellites, and here we have developed one of our main, our activities in this case were mainly in the part of testing parts, and then the product, some of the products that were developed in this context. Other relevant projects is Sagres, deep sea mining, exploration of mineral resources, where we have this project will give rise shortly to a startup. For the remote, it deals with the remote sensing services and big data analysis, and it aims to develop an innovative service to support the decision-making process in the prospection for deep sea mineral deposits. And this is built on the satellite data that are available today. This is another kind of project that is intelligent monitoring systems. That is a project of scientific and technological transference, knowledge transference, and it was mainly dedicated to SMEs, trying to help SMEs in the transition to the Industry 4.0. Here is the Mars probe. I don't know if we have something later on at ISQ at Castelo Branco, the lab, where this kind of development was tested. This is a Portuguese project for, it's a kind of a capsule for bringing samples from the Mars to be analyzed on Earth, and this is from cork. The capsule is fabricated on cork, and it is a new approach to the atmospheric re-entry of this type of objects on the atmospheric field. This is another kind of project, now in another area, non-destructive testing. And we are, it is very, very, very fast, very short, and I just have shown some of we consider the most interesting projects. Let me see if I have some difficulty here. I will try to, let me. Can I have your help, please, someone? I can't close the presentation. I don't know. I don't know. I can't close it. I don't see the. Não vejo o rato. Ele foi. Here it is. Ok. Sim, por favor. Ok. Obrigado. Let me now just give you a glimpse of the other lab that we will visit later. This is the Special Validation and Testing Lab that is located at Castelo Branco. And here it is a lab that comprises two different areas or different type of services. In one part, we have the tailor-made testing design of experiments. That is a part that is more dedicated to the aeronautics, aerospatial, automotive, military sectors, and where ISQ is able to perform tests that are designed very special tests. And here we will see the vibration testing, weather testings, thermal vacuum testings, and circle testings. And we have another part of it is the ATP regulatory inspections. So in the ATP regulatory inspections, we will do regular inspections. It is a service that ISQ provides in the name of, it has an authorization by the government to provide this type of services to this type of transport, but it has also in this sector another type of activity. And the other type of activity is the testing of prototypes, new prototypes, where ISQ is able, had competencies to help manufacturers to improve their own products, and the products are then validated at ISQ. So, this is just some pictures, because we are short of time, just pictures of the different type of equipments that we have at these installations, and for those that will join us, you will see some of them. See just some reference, some of reference, so you will see the type of industry with which ISQ is dealing with. Ui, that's. You want to go hot pascals? Ah, here it is. Oops. It is not. Yeah, it's here. Okay. Yeah. Well, and now we will go to our main presentation. So this is an example, as I have referred some during my presentation of ISQ, some collaborative projects with other big, especially big, some of those that you have seen involved big industries or big sectors, but we also have many examples of others involving SMEs, for example. Here, it's the example of a project, a mobilizing project, that was Produtec-CIF, and it was a project with about 7-8 members, partners, and was a big project, and these core technologies for cyber-physical manufacturing system, it was one of 7 projects of this cluster of this umbrella. Produtec-CIF was an umbrella, and this was one of the projects. So, as you see, it is over there. It is over there with where it is kind. It's a kind. The mobilizing project is represented like a house, and with different structural base projects and the pillars, the vertical projects, and finally the demonstration projects at the ceiling of that house. The consortium of this particular project involved 15 partners, where we have IPCB. It was a partner, a very relevant partner in this project, and he was responsible for developing the smart box that was one of the main developments of this project. So, as you see, we had 9 companies, industrial companies. This is a project that involved companies coming from the equipments, manufacturers of equipments of systems, and users, those that are users of the technology. And in the middle, we have the developers that involved academia and technological institutes. The project had several 4 activities, and finally all these activities converge in a demonstrator. And this demonstrator has demonstrated not only these developments that were made in this project, but the developments that were made in the overall project. And in this case, the demonstrator was IDEPA, that is a textile company at the north of Portugal. I would outline only the aspects of collaboration between partners, namely the research partners and the industrial partners. So the project has started. I would make a point before just to give you the context of these core technologies, of what was the project and what was the problem. The problem is that when we go to a production factory, the shop floor is composed by physical and digital assets. But all these, generally, all these elements, all these assets are heterogeneous. Are heterogeneous because they came from different manufacturers, they have different levels of technological levels, and even when we talk about digital assets, there is differentiation on the data models they use, on the communication protocols they also used. So they are examples that it is almost impossible in an environment like this to implement an Industry 4.0, to implement the Industry 4.0 paradigm. Because there is no integration of all those machines and systems, and they are not integrated, they are not able to communicate with each other, not only among them, but also with humans. So, to prepare the industrial companies for the future, it is necessary to look at these environments and try, not only for the legacy but also for the new equipment, ways of integrating, making the integration possible between all these systems, equipments, and so on. So, I would say that our aim, it was to create what we called a small object that would be an hardware that would integrate, make all this integration, and would habilitate the shop floor, the machines, and the systems, and the humans to communicate, to communicate, and also integrate those in a cloud, in an internet, industrial IoT. To do so, to understand what were the real needs of companies, what was done at the beginning, it was an exploratory analysis of all the companies involved in the projects in order that they could identify and specify what they were their needs in terms of Industry 4.0. And so we followed that methodology by asking all the companies and so on, and finally, when we had a picture of all the requirements, we made a workshop where all the companies have participated, and where we proposed showed the results of the choirs and the analysis, and have proposed solutions. And from this workshop, the application scenarios where we will demonstrate the technologies were identified, and also were identified other needs in terms of development. Here is, for example, at IDEPA, that is the textile industry, some of the needs of this company were an higher sensorization level in order that it could upgrade the legacy equipments, and with a new set of sensors that will provide data that could be used in the analysis of what was going on the production. With a higher level of data, it would be possible to implement a maintenance, a predictive maintenance system, and it was required also to have a unified human-machine interface in order to be able to have information real-time information about the production. Here we have an example of this same analysis made at another company, completely different company, sector. And in this case, it was metrology, quality control, digitalization of mechanical components, and integrated line view that were the main concerns for Industry 4.0 components. And at the end, we end up with about specifications concerning communications, actuation, data processing, data storage, operation, sensorization, and so on, at different enterprises. So this work, it was a very hard work, but it was very inspiring because it provided to the developers it provided developers with the specifications of what were the real needs of enterprises. It was a very, very close, but it was only possible because of the close interrelation and relationship and cooperation between the developers and the industrial companies. I would stress from this cooperation, another important result from this project, it was the development of a new sensor that gave, I don't know if some of you have interest, we can make this presentation available, because I will refer very briefly because we have run out of time, but from this project, another, as I said, another important result, it was the development of a new sensor due to the requirements, special requirements of industrial needs. And this new sensor, it as an application, a patent was submitted for this new sensor, and gave rise to a startup for exploitation of the new product. Here we have another important development. And development, it was what we call the smart object concept. Because the smart object concept, it was really that element that would allow a coherent integration of all the assets on the shop floor, as well as the communication and collaboration between assets. It had the ability to build and dynamically execute control and monitoring applications, and its implementation was based on the concept of Industry 4.0. It is a reference model that is RAMIC 4.0, and this was one of the main results of the project, because this allowed to transform the shop floor in a cyber-physical production system. The smart box was responsibility of IPCB. It was a quite important development because it allowed, it was an hardware platform that was essentially for managing the shop floor equipment and the integration of all the components, and it supported the smart object that was the software. This is only to show the different levels. This was the implementation that was made at IDEPA, the textile industry. This is the design that was the integration of all elements. with the smart box and the smart object, and with the human-machine interface using augmented reality, with the IRP of the company, and all that integration went to internet, to the cloud, and to an industrial IoT, and the data would be used by other applications, software applications, for improving the production. This is an example of the implementation at IDEPA. And finally, I would just refer that another quite interesting result that was obtained, it was the challenges, some of the solutions for solving problems that were detected at the level of the human-machine interface. And at shop floor, it was almost all the industrial people referred that it would be very important to get relevant information and have the possibility to interact with the machines using not only mobile devices but other interaction devices that would communicate with the smart object or other, the way the possibility to communicate with the assets in the shop floor. And the augmented reality, it was also a technology that was referred for development and application, creating an interface, an intelligent interface that would allow depending on the context and depending on the person that is going for example, in the shop floor, if it is a director, he would be interested in the same kind of data. If it is a maintenance operator, of course, for the same equipment or the same production line, it would be interested in another information. And there was some applications were developed for showing this capability. Now, just for finishing, we have developed an application at MCG for metrology of car parts that have a quite important control, dimensional control, an application based on augmented reality was developed, and it allowed, finally, this application allowed to, we have finally here the results of the application of the new methodology for doing the same, that operation of quality control, but based on the augmented reality, and it showed that the impact on the quality control was about 37% reduction in the execution time of the quality control operation, 57% increase in the number of tests per week that were possible to do. And another conclusion, it was that it reduces the need for qualified people to execute the tests. Because before, it would be needed people, specialized people to do the control. After with the augmented reality, we don't need such a level of qualification, since the operator is being guided all the way to perform that application. And in this project, other relevant projects were some scientific publications, papers, and also 2 MSCs and 1 PhD thesis that were developed in the industrial companies that were part of the project. Thank you very much. I hope you have understood a bit of this. It was quite fast due to the time constraints, but if you have any questions, please, I will be available and we can discuss it. Okay, thank you. I don't know if maybe there is any question, we can talk later. And we have Pedro Torres from IPCB that is being quite involved in the smart box and smart object that you will be also delighted to give you some explanations if you have questions. Thank you.
We thank Helena Gouveia for her presence and contribution. Thank you. And invite all to join us in a visit to the Thermodynamic and Aeronautic Lab of ESQ. Transports will be available outside. We hope you all enjoy the first day of ICOPEV. Have a nice visit, and we will see you again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you.